Good morning and welcome to Black Mental Health Matters. Today we'll be discussing holistic approaches to mental wellness, integrating education and intervention. Joining me today is Louise Taylor. Louise is an educator and a mental health and professional. She's also a pastor. She has a youth ministry going. Welcome, Louise, to the show and introduce yourself to our audience.
Thank you for having me today, Sonia. Hello, everyone. My name is Louise Taylor. I'm an integrated mental health professional. That is just one title that I can give you because I wear many hats. We will be discussing some very wonderful topics today that will incite your thinking.
Thank you for joining us today, Louise.
Thank you. Okay, Sonia, whenever you're ready.
I am ready, believe it or not. I am
Okay.
ready. You know, I'm going to start off by asking you to explain what holistic approaches to mental wellness entail and why they're significant for the Black community.
Okay, so the approaches for mental wellness and what they entail, they deal with the whole body and the spirit. And so when we're dealing with the whole body and spirit, we are not being stigmatized by our diagnosis of what we're being given, but we're rather looking at the whole person. And the reason why they're so significant for the Black community is that a lot of the times we don't address these concerns. We don't. There could be a person that is having what's called an episode. You know, an episode is a point in time where something's just not going right. And oftentimes we tend to overlook it because it's like, oh, they're going to be okay. Just pray about it. And sometimes it takes a little bit more than prayer. You have to actually have somebody that you can go and talk to that'll be able to help you get through your rough patch that you're going through. And it's not always a one and done solution where you just go speak with somebody and it's like, okay, I'm done now. Trauma exists within us, and it sometimes takes a little bit more than just one session, 2 sessions. You have to literally go and get everything off of you in order to start to heal.
I'm going to go back to what you said earlier about the mind body
Okay.
connection. Because everything you have to pay attention to the entire being, not just
Absolutely.
one aspect of it. So when you
Yes.
talk about trauma and healing from that trauma, is it then necessary to go to a therapist who deals with a holistic healing, so to speak, someone who's going to look at not just what is going on with you mentally, but also look at what's going on with you physically and also what's going on with you spiritually?
Yes, it is. It's very important to be able to go to a holistic therapist or a therapist who is able to help you. In a lot of ways, um, that's one of the reasons why people go to church. Because when you go to church, inside of us, with the whole body, mind, and spirit, the spiritual you is seeking questions and answers. And so, therefore, you're going to a spiritual advisor, your pastor, your rabbi, or whomever it is that you actually go to serve with. And yes, it's like we said before, it's very important because you want somebody that can actually deal with the whole body, the spirit, and the mind, and not just one aspect of it. Because when you look at it, we're interconnected as a being and as a society, right? So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, we need different moving parts that's going to be able to help us. So it's like this: if you have a toothache, You don't go to a podiatrist, you go to a dentist, right? And that dentist is able to help you with the specialty of your teeth, right? The podiatrist is able to help you with your feet. When you're dealing with holistic providers, you have those that are helping with your spiritual sense, like we're talking about meditation, right? We'll get into meditation. You have those that are helping with the body and the spirit and the mind, which is like yoga. Then you have our energy healers, which are like our Reiki practitioners, which I happen to be. So it's
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, it's a moving body of work. It's a moving body of work where all specialists are there to help. So to answer, I hope that answered your question. Because as we spoke earlier,
So,
sometimes I go down a different road.
somewhat because, yeah, somewhat because I'm familiar with all
Okay.
of those healing
Yes.
modalities, the yoga, the meditation.
Yes.
I would throw in there reading spiritual content,
Yes.
depending on where you're at. I mean, this month now is Ramadan month, and I know
Yes.
that there are going to be persons who are getting so deep within their spirituality. They, one, cleaning the body through fasting, because fasting also helps the body to heal and recover,
Yes.
getting rid of things that are not there. And they are practicing. Around this time, people really get into their spirituality. They're reading the Quran, they're praying, they're making sure that they pray, they're doing charity work, they're doing what they can to really embody the teaching of Islam during this period of fasting. So that for
Right.
me is also the mind, body, and soul connection. You're working on the body at the same time, and you're doing the things that you have to do to stay connected. Um, so I understand some of what you said. The yoga exercise, and yoga is not just an exercise. Yoga includes the meditation as well. I know that for most Western people, yoga is actually seen as, let me stretch the body, but yoga includes all of it, the body that you can see and the body that you can't see, and all the other things that make the human a human. And
That's
yeah, that make the human a human. So being in that realm of the taking a holistic approach, you have to include all of it. You have to
yes, you
look at
do.
your emotions, what's going on with me. So yes, I understand some of what you're saying, the yoga, the Reiki, all of these things are looking at the whole person, whole person. And it's at this stage where I would share that as a religious science practitioner, that's what I do. When a client comes to me, it is with the intention that I'm going to return them to that state of wholeness. They're looking for wholeness. So that is what I do. And also educating people in their spiritual practices. So if you come to me, you're Muslim, Christian, Hindu, Jew, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is educate you so that you can use your spiritual practices to return
Right.
you to that place of wholeness. It is not to convert you to anything, because I don't belong to any particular thing,
Okay.
but it is
Yes.
to return to a place of wholeness, return to source, return to who you really are at the very core of your being. And with that said, because I know that's a whole mouthful, can you share with our audience some of the common myths and misconception about mental health that prevail in our community?
Oh yeah. As I was explaining earlier, some of the common myths are like, I don't need to go speak with anybody because I'm fine. Or the one, I can just pray it all away and it'll be answered, right? Or you have the one, it's kind of cliche and it's often used in various subjects, and this is one of them, that whatever happens in this house stays in this house, or you don't have to go and talk to anybody because God will answer every last one of your prayers, which I don't doubt. However, there is a point in time where you have to go and you have to speak with someone because it becomes too much of a burden a lot of times for the weight, the trauma that's being carried by that individual or by a
Yeah.
family. A lot of times it's generational trauma that never heals in the family. And so it's just passed along like legacy, like, hey, this is normal for us. It actually starts to become normal when it's not. So those misconceptions are we don't need to go speak with anybody. We got this taken care of. We're strong, like especially for women of color. We're strong black women. And no matter what you throw at us, we can handle it. We can really you can drop a boulder on me and guess what? I will bounce back. I can handle it.
I like
That,
that. I like
that
that.
yeah,
And
because
hearing you,
the,
yeah, hearing you say that reminds me of those cartoons where you get run over by a steamroller and you just get back up, shake yourself, and
yeah,
woo, renewed.
yeah,
Yes.
yes.
So I heard
Like
you
it's like,
say earlier. Earlier you said you don't have to go and see anyone. You don't have to talk to anyone, and that
right,
brought to mind the idea that we go to the doctor when we're not feeling well
right,
because we want to take care of our physical bodies.
right.
Yeah, we want to make sure that our physical bodies are good. You can pray away a lot of illness through the power of your own mind, and this is what Jesus has taught.
Right.
It is
That's
done unto
true.
you as you believe. But we still have to recognize that at the end of the day, it's all God. God is in the therapist. God is in the medical doctor. And just as you would want to heal, have healing for your physical body,
Hmm.
I think people should embrace healing for the emotions and mental being, that other part of us that we cannot see, but we can feel it because we know that there's something inside of us that keeps us going. There's something inside of us when it's not well. Some of us recognize when things are not well.
That's
I heard
true.
someone say to me the other day, I haven't been doing the stuff that I needed to do because I was in the fog. I was in the
Mm,
fog.
okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it is good when you can become self-aware and realize, okay, something is off. And I've heard people talk about this. I'm not feeling myself. And if you ask them to describe it, most times they cannot tell you what it is because they are not aware of what's going on inside of them at that soul level, at that spiritual level. They're just not aware.
That's true. I've had a couple
Yeah.
of people that I've encountered that have come to me and those very words. I don't feel like myself. I don't feel like myself. And so these are things where when I actually have someone to come to me, that's when we start talking and we start going over what is it that helps you to know that you're not feeling yourself? What's the difference? What are the triggers? We have to get to the point of what's actually triggering that person. If it is actually, how can I say, like a childhood memory, or if it's something that's a sudden onset, because that's how mental health actually does work when you're having different episodes or things are changing in your life. Sometimes it's a sudden onset, and then at other times it's been there for a long period of time. And because of our busy schedules or life happening, we don't notice it. But in your downtime, or sometimes in the midst of all of the things that you're doing, it presents itself. And when it does present itself, it's like, how do we handle that? And a lot of people that I talk with, that's when we get to the point where when I speak to them, it's like, I didn't realize that was happening to me. I had no idea that I was going through that. I had no idea that everything was just pounding down on me at one time, or that I was taking on this problem or that problem. I just thought that it was normal. And those are the things that we have to pay attention to, especially in the Black community, because, like I said before, we are people who always have been, we're strong. No matter what the problem is, we're strong. And everybody, even in their strength, has a point of weakness. that you have to address. And that weakness in your mind, you have to address it. Because if your mind is not right, that body's not going to function. Okay? The mind, your brain, that central source of things, if it's not right, if it's not clear, if you can't get clarity, we're going to start breaking down. You're going to have things that happen. And when they happen, sometimes it's like you didn't send out the warning signal before, but now we're in a fight or flight moment. So now we have to go and see someone. Now it's imperative that I need to talk to a therapist. I need to talk to somebody that's going to listen. But the thing that often happens is that because we're oftentimes looked at like we can handle it all, we don't do it. And therefore it creates more issues.
I think that education is vital throughout life.
Okay.
One of the things that happens to us, especially when we're very young, is that mental, trying to find the right words here, but
Okay.
that mental programming that leads to us not being well. And just bear with me. It's formulating.
Okay.
It is coming. It is coming
Okay.
because I'm a parent
Right.
and I have been able to look at my parenting style and things that I've neglected to do. And therefore, I can see where it has impacted my children's mental wellness. Because mental wellness is not about having that psychiatric breakdown or psychological breakdown. There are a lot of little subtle things that go on within the human being that can be construed as mental illness. Such as when my friend said,
Okay.
I'm in the fog. I'm in the
Yes.
fog, going through the fog. We see a lot of people walking around and they seem okay. They're laughing, they interacting with you, they're eating, they're dressing nice. But there is that subtle something where that says, something is going on. I'm trying to remember, I don't remember who said it, but the soul is restless until it rests in God. And by that I mean rest in wholeness until you find that place where you feel really whole and satisfied with life. And I'm going to come back to this because I think that the older generation, especially the older generation who are older than I am, many of them do not have that educational background, that knowledge base to understand how to raise strong adults. We're always talking about raising children. And then when our children are 40 and 50 and still not getting their life together, it is because of that mental programming that we do as parents, we do as teachers and religious leaders. We teach our people to be less than. We teach them to look at life from some very negative perspectives rather than positive ones. And I think that for me, let me just say, for me, mental wellness comes when you are in that place where you are not just talking about your spirituality, but you're living from that place. You're living from a place like, most mystics would, people like Jesus would have, where life for you is a place of ease and grace. You're not looking out at the world and competing with other people to find your own identity. You show up in the world as who you are because you recognize, hey, look, I'm made in the likeness and image of God. And God has many aspects. I choose to be this aspect at this time in my life. Maybe tomorrow I'll go on and have a different experience and experience life, a different aspect of God through this other experience. So I think that mental wellness comes when you get grounded in your true identity as a spiritual being. And that has to do
Sounds
with
good.
re-educating ourselves, and then
Hmm.
educating the younger generation that is coming to know truth. And spiritual support is important. Unfortunately, we in the Black community, especially in the Western Hemisphere, embrace cultures that are detrimental to who we are within the true African tradition. Storytelling, we tell our story, and that's what maintains, at least I think, let me stand corrected, because I know some societies are still changed. If you go into a big city, it's going to be different. But I think if you go to village life, the traditions of telling that oral story of who you are in the world and maintaining that spiritual tradition is still alive. It's when people go to big cities and they start to learn about Western culture and Western civilization. And I think that's why education is important. How do we change that narrative around mental health within the Black community? What educational programs can we really bring within our schools? Or should we have schools that are should we have schools that are just for us, unintegrated, just for us? You know, and I'm saying this because I live in Barbados and our schools are predominantly Black students. Unfortunately, the educational system does not teach us how to embrace our Blackness, embrace Black culture. So education is important, but what kind of education are we going to bring? How can we bring a holistic education to address the issues that we're seeing within the Black community, where our mental well-being is one where we're at peace with ourselves, we're at peace with people around us? How do we do that?
Well, one of the things that I've been noticing a lot more of is social emotional learning, having children to become self aware, show self love, because that's something that I do notice a lot in the public school systems. There are children who they can't embrace who they are because they feel like being themselves, it's not worth it. It's like I'm ugly. Oh, I admire this person. As far as role models are concerned, they're searching constantly for a role model, somebody that they can emulate, they can be just like, not knowing that they have a superpower within themselves where they are a role model. A lot of times our parents have to work. They have to work. And unlike it was when I was growing up, where we sat down at the table as a family and our parents were constantly on it, where they asked you, hey, how was school today? What did you learn? How do you feel? Did you have any problems? We had parents that were there that no matter if they worked or not, they gave you that time. In this time now, as an educator, the things that I see is a lot of the parents don't have the time. They basically they basically can run up only if maybe my child has a problem at school. And then when they come up to the school, it's like, well, I can't miss work. So now it's like it's leveraging between, okay, I have to take care of my family and I'll have the money, but my child is being neglected and they're losing focus. Their identity is starting to be wiped away. So I think for us as a community, as a society, the more we have professionals who are educated or people who are aware of mental stigmas and how they affect children first and foremost, because if you can catch it at a level when they're younger, then we can start to knock numbers down of the people that are suffering. That's how I look at it, right? And so that would what that looks like is also making sure that your parents can take education of mental health programs, like you have mental health responders, right? You have all kinds of programs that we have where you can become a mental health coach, or if they offer these things in school by a professional, qualified professional, somebody who area that is, and you give more of those programs, as I explained, with the social emotional learning, not just for the children, but for the parents as well. And we start to bridge the gap of bringing children back with their parents and making it an open conversation. That now, instead of the television raising my child or watching my child for me, or the apps on the phone watching my child and raising my child and being the babysitter, that I literally physically can step back in and we start to have these conversations of, hey, how was your day? Because in order to raise a community or a nation of people that are going to do a lot better, we got to, as you said, we have to go back, re-educate ourselves, see what we're missing, see how we can be a better assistance. People who are the elders in the communities at this point in time. Now, your young elders, your 40-year-olds on up, we have a responsibility as a people to reach back. Don't just leave them behind and say, hey, you know what? I'm fine. I made it through. I got through my generation. You guys are going to be strong. You're going to get through it, because they're not. They're looking for us as role models without the whole thing of, passing judgment on them as far as, well, you're listening to this music and you're doing that and you're doing this. Instead of reprimanding them for what it is that they listen to and what they do, find out the why of why they do it. Go into it and actually try to figure out, like, okay, wait a minute, hold on. Where's the disconnect coming from? Because there's a big disconnect. And the disconnect is in communication. Nobody's communicating, because everything is, and don't get me wrong, I do like artificial intelligence, I will say that, because sometimes it does help. But the reality of it is this: the only intelligence that you truly need as a human is here. We stop using brain power, we stop using common sense, we stop using communication, and most of all, we stop spreading love and care to one another, because we're so caught up in trying to get everything done in a millisecond, and we're forgetting the most important part. There was a term when I was growing up: the children are our future. So if you're not catering to or educating or looking after the mental wellness of children, where's your future going? You
I
won't have a
cannot
future.
answer that. I cannot answer that question. You're asking me, or maybe you're posing it to the audience who are online watching,
I'm
but
posing it to the
I
audience.
cannot answer that question. But what I will say
Yeah.
is that there is that need to educate the adults who are having children, and I think that even before you have children, that this education, teaching you about who you are, how to become self-aware and make better choices for your life. I think things like this help you to maintain a well balanced mentality. I'm not going to say you wouldn't get a little off kiltered every now and again, because we still have to realize that there's still that generational trauma that will affect us unless we learn how to break this cycle. And I say this, and as I say this, I'm thinking of a young lady who called me really early this morning. She's going through a challenge with her partner, and the family history is this has been your grandparent, this has been your parent, your mother, and now this is you. And I said to her, you need to find a way to break that cycle of domestic abuse. You need to.
Yes.
So at some point in time, we will meet up, and I will help her to get over that and start a new way of thinking, so that that doesn't happen again. Because in as much as she wouldn't say, well, I'm not mentally okay, just by listening, I realized you are not mentally okay, but you don't want to say it. You don't want to take the necessary steps for healing. And this is why education is so important. We go to school and they'll teach us about maths and science and things that they're relevant to those persons who want to use them in their career or maybe just as a hobby. But not everyone wants to go into a classroom and come out saying, well, I know mathematics, I know English, I know this. Sometimes these things are taught to everyone, but not everyone wants to know that or need to know that. I think that one of the things I would like to see happening in schools is that we have classes that are structured for young people on personal development rather than all the academic stuff that you just throw at them because you got to get qualified to do this. And if you don't have this, you can't do this. And I think that in itself creates mental health illness because if I'm a student in your class and you're saying, well, Sonia, you don't do well in math, so you are stupid. Imagine the impact that that's going to have on me throughout my life because I know a lot of people think children are resilient, but children are not resilient. I myself am not resilient. I may appear strong, but I have my breaking points. I have times when I just get into the fog, so to speak, because there are things that would have happened even as a very young child that is still lodged in my subconscious mind, and I don't know what it is. But I can tell you the times when I feel off, you know, the times when I feel off, and I'm not going to go to see a psychiatrist. I might see someone from my ministry and have that talk with them and say, look, this is not going the way I want. Something is off. And have that conversation, have them pray with me because that's necessary. But I remember coming across an article that spoke about exercise,
Okay.
exercise being one of the avenues through which, or let's say tool, for helping people maintain mental wellness, body wellness, wellness in general. That exercise helps you to maintain all of that and create all of that within your being. And I think that that I think that that is true. I think that that is very true. That exercise helps with your mental well-being, helps with your physical well-being, helps with your overall well-being, your mood, and all of those things. I'm not scientifically minded to give you all the different hormones and stuff that will be released through exercise and correct diet and all the other things that we do to maintain. I'm not in that arena. I don't know if you are, Louise, but this is the question we have here. In what ways do diet and physical activity impact mental health? And how can we incorporate these areas into a holistic approach to mental wellness?
Okay, so I am not a dietary expert. I will say that. But speaking from speaking from my I can use me as an example if that is okay.
That
If
is
that is
okay.
okay. I'll use myself.
Yes.
Okay. So, as far as diet and physical activity, how can I put this? Okay, so you have for me, what I find out is that you have two brains, right? You have the brain in your head and then you have the brain in your stomach, right? So the old cliche of you are what you eat is a true statement in fact. Because if you are eating uh, non living foods, processed foods, what is it, refined foods, things that don't have vitality or give you life, this actually also shows the energy of what you project. It also shows within your body how it comes out to be. If you are a person who, they say that like type 2 diabetes is a hereditary situation that most people have, right? And based off of type
I
2
don't think so.
diabetes, and I want, huh?
I don't think so. I don't agree that it is hereditary. Um,
That is what I'm getting to.
yeah, I don't agree.
That's exactly what I'm getting to. But I'm saying, according to statistics and what's often said on commercials, when we hear it, they tell you that type 2 diabetes can be a hereditary condition. However, upon studying it, especially with people who have diabetes in my family, I've noticed that based off of the way that you eat, based off of how you go about what you put on your menu, that causes the diabetes to happen more so. Now, I have one relative who actually got rid of all the processed foods, the refined sugars, and things that um, are not alive. Okay. And they started eating nothing but whole foods, which goes back to our whole body, our mind, body, and spirit, right? So things that are alive that will give us nutrients. That person in my family was able to reverse the effects of type 2 diabetes. And they're doing a lot better now. And like I said, for myself, I'm on that road as well, making sure that I can reverse it because a body in motion stays in motion. So you need to do physical activities, right? Because if you're not doing physical activities, you're going to lose mobility at some point. Your body's not going to be as strong as it is. And not only your body, but your mind. Because if you're not putting the effort towards getting up and doing something every day where you're active, then eventually you'll start to have ailments. Okay? Body becomes stiff, just like your mind. Your mind will become stiff because it's like it's no activities going on. And like I was saying before, with your way of eating, your habits for eating, if you don't eat in the best manner of whole foods, live foods, then you start to have ailments. So, incorporating that into a holistic approach to mental wellness, the better you do for your body, the better you do for your mind, the better you do for your spirit because it's all interconnected.
I like that answer, and I'm going to add to it that some foods can make you so lethargic. Some foods can just pull your energy down. And sugar is one such food. It gives you a high for a few minutes and then
That's the truth.
crash and burn. But I don't think that, and I'm going to speak for West Indian people, because one of the things that
Okay.
I have noticed on most menus here in Barbados, especially, is the high volume of starch, very little veg.
Mm,
And then we will say, oh, but Barbados has a very high rate of amputees due to diabetes. And one of the other things that I will say too is that when we become adults, or when we're given that little thing that say, hey, you're over 18, you're an adult now, we start to think about life differently. We start playing, we start having fun and doing fun things, because there's certain things that adults no longer do. Adults don't go and run around and skate and pitch marbles and hula hoop and go on the swing and swing. We no longer do those things. And they say, oh, you have responsibilities now, so you cannot be seen doing all these fun things. But I think that play is important, especially play that involves being active is important. You know, I know for me, I spend a lot of time sitting at the computer, and my body has felt the effects over the years. And then there's also this need to exercise in a group. I don't want to exercise alone. I want company when I'm exercising. So my exercise routine is limited, very limited. Um, the good thing for me is that when I go out, I walk a lot. I'm in situations where I get to walk a lot, and that is good for me. You know, um, Walk to the bus stop, walk through Bridgetown. I do get some walking in at least every couple of weeks, get to walk. But most of the time I'm sedentary. I'm
Okay.
sitting. I'm sitting. And life is about balance. You have to bring that mind, body, and soul connection together. You cannot just take care of your spiritual nature by doing all the spiritual
Right.
practices that you can and neglect to give the body nutrients, neglect to give the body exercise. And exercise helps to clear the energy channels in your body, release all that stuck energy from wherever. We need not have moments of unhappiness the way that we're doing today because of that comparison thing. You're not like so and so, so you're not good. And I think if we can get people to come to that place where they realize, I am made in the image of God, therefore, I am whole, I am perfect, I am complete. And start to really change con- the mind construct where you start to see yourself as being perfect, even within your own imperfection. But
Right.
where we need to be educated is in areas of self-love, loving yourself just as you are. And I know for people of color, for Black people who have been taught that they were not human or less than human, and that Black is not beautiful. Your nose broad and it flat, and your skin color really don't line up with what some standards of beauty are. We have to re-educate our young women about their hair texture. And every time I see someone say, I'm done with processing my hair to make it straight, I give them the thumbs up sign. Because unless you can really appreciate and value yourself where you're at and for who you are, you're going to have some serious challenges with your mental well-being. I think it is Saint Paul from the Bible, who said, "Be ye transformed through the renewing of your mind." I think that is what he said. I'm not a biblical scholar. And I think that that is relevant to the education that is needed to get people to change their way of thinking about life in general, to get people to come to that place where they value and appreciate themselves, see their own self-worth. And this is where the education for me needs to go. So that when you show up, you show up as the best version of yourself and not what someone thinks you ought to be. If we can get education
Mm-hmm.
tailored within schools and other institutions so that the whole person is being addressed rather than just that academic aspect that calls for intellect. But we go into that realm of, oh, my
Mm-hmm.
soul needs to be educated. My soul needs to understand the journey that it has been on and how that journey has shaped my experiences up until this point. How do I nurture that part of me? How do I love that part of me that I cannot see? But I know it is there because that's what keeps me going. That spirit within is what is giving me the ability to express life as a human being. And that's where I think the education needs to go. Maths and English are good. Learning French is awesome. Being able to speak various languages is great. But I think,
Yeah, it
instead of
is.
all of that, let us nurture the whole person. Let us educate people about who they really are. The three in one. The three in one. I would venture to say the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but that doesn't include me. You know what I mean? That doesn't include me.
Yeah.
And for me, God has to be reflected through me. God has to be in my image as well. It can't just be that patriarch um, way of looking at it.
You made some very
So
valid points.
I have to say mother, daughter, Holy Spirit, and transcend the norms, because these are other things too that really bring us to that place of self-loathing. It's like, where do I fit into traditional religious thinking? And this again calls for mental breakdown. We don't see it. We think I'm okay. But little things like resentment is also a form of mental illness, not being well mentally. Because if you were made in the image of God, and God is absolute love, and God is absolute respect for all, then where does resentment come from? And resentment hurts the person who's resenting. So for me, these negative little emotions that we hold on to contribute to mental illness. It isn't the psychotic breakdowns. It's not that at all that makes one mentally ill. It's little things that go unacknowledged. Those are the things that we don't acknowledge. And I'm going to share.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear
Okay. I thought I had a little glitch in the system for a minute.
you. No, there's no little glitch. So
Okay.
I believe we may have touched on this already. What are some of the emerging trends in holistic mental health care that can benefit the Black community?
Oh, this is wonderful. Okay. So, a lot of the emerging trends in holistic mental health care would be yoga, right? So for a while, um, it was unheard of people that I knew in my circle and in my city who were actually taking yoga classes. They didn't know anything about yoga, there's hot yoga, different things like that, like we touched on, that are for the mind, body, spirit, right? That go beyond the physical body, and it also transcends into the spiritual body. Then you have energy healing, you have Reiki energy healing, where you are shown exactly how to heal anything that is in your body, right? Anything that is in your mind, because you're using your mind to generate through your whole body. And there's an energy barrier that's there that helps you to actually heal yourself or heal others, right? Then we have meditation. This is a point that I love touching on, because in meditation, how many people actually take the time out? How many people actually take out 5 minutes, just 5 minutes a day, to do affirmations, to sit in silence, and to become one, and just to feel everything around you? We're too busy most of the time, so we miss meditation, right? We don't get up early enough, some people, to pray. Prayer is a form of meditation. It really is, because it's you and the creator. It's you becoming aware of your surroundings, you speaking even to yourself, even being able to say, hey, you know what? Let me connect with me to do an assessment. Let's do an assessment of how I'm feeling today. What's going on? And that is one of the issues that we have when we're talking about the mental wellness. because, like I said before, we're so busy not being able to stay in connection with ourselves and in connection with the source that it's like, okay, I got to work, I got to do this, I got to do. What about the time that you just give back? So, meditation is a really big part of what it is that I do and what I like to do. And as a matter of fact, I'll show you the school that I currently work at in our area. We're like a melting pot. There's great diversity there. However, a lot of the children who are educated, they're from the islands. A lot are from the islands. A lot are from Africa. Um, we have a lot of children who come in as refugees because we're a school that literally is a sanctuary school. So, being a sanctuary school, anybody is welcome to come in depending on where you come from. At this point now, we have an influx of migrants that have come to the city, right? And so one of the things that I've learned, especially as of yesterday, because I watch our children and adults alike for behavioral, for behavioral issues or whatever it may be. My class was my class has been very antsy for the time prior before I came in to teach. Oh my gosh. And I love educating our children. So it's like going into the classroom, oh, there's an influx of temperaments and we're not listening. And so I just observed it for a little bit. And what I did, I said, okay, everybody, I need for you to sit down in your seats. We're going to do something different today. What are we going to do? We're going to get in contact with ourselves. I said, let me show you what that looks like. So, quite naturally, we're doing 5 minutes of meditation, and their heads are down. And I'm like, okay, let's just relax and let's breathe. So, we're doing breathing exercises. We're saying affirmations that are positive affirmations for our school day. This has helped so much that I have other educators that are coming to me and they're like, I've never seen that before. I'm so used to them hollering in the classroom. That's because we have to start looking inside of ourselves and pushing everything out for those children. Make sure that they know, okay, there's time that we need to breathe. There's time that we need to self reflect. There's time that we need to have self awareness. And there's definitely time for self love. And we have to start teaching them that little by little so that they can get it and they can become aware of who they are. So these are things that could benefit the Black community. Actually, having a program where we have a yoga instructor to come into the school and alongside of the gym teacher or the physical ed teacher, they're being taught yoga. There's time where we can have someone to come in um, who is doing SEL, self awareness, and we're doing our breathing exercises. There's a time where there can be somebody that comes in that's a Reiki practitioner, and you're showing the basics of how to heal yourself. All of these things we can integrate within our community and we can give it to our children. We can give it to our parents because in order to reach those children, you have to reach the parents,
I agree.
right? You have to reach your
Yes,
parents.
I agree
So
with you there.
parents need to be educated. Yes, parents need to be educated. And guess what else? Guess what else I noticed? Not only do parents need to be educated, educators need to be educated because I'm
Big
looking at
time.
really big time, right? I'm looking
Big
at
time.
the energy levels of educators when I go into the school. I'm always greeted with, oh my God, you're a ball of sunshine. Oh my God, we've never seen anybody like you before. Oh my God, where did you come from? And I'm thinking to myself, this person has been having a hard time. This teacher, this educator has been having a hard time. And I generally can tell by how that classroom is. Like I said, the classroom that I inherited for the week. Okay. Uh, the teachers had, other surrounding teachers had never seen this class transform the way that they did because I know that giving care, I know that showing love, I know that having our children learn to embrace themselves in self love, self awareness, right? It's important because they can leave with a great sense of love and respect, and honestly they're toned down, like they're quieter and they're more at peace. It's more peaceful. And I've even had the administrators of the building come and tell me, wow, you're amazing. We've never seen anybody like you before. The compliments, I just kind of look at them, I take them, and I'm like, that's beautiful. But I'm like, this is what I was put here for. This is my purpose. My purpose is to serve. My purpose is to make sure that we, as a community, as a whole body of God, that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. What does that look like? It looks like being able to reach out and help. Just being able to say kind words to your coworker, kind words to the children. There's nothing wrong in being kind and acknowledging that, hey, I'm not the only person here. You matter. We matter together. How can I help you? That is my thing. How can I help you? How can I help? I ask my children, my students, hey, how can I help you? Let me see what you need help with. What do you want to work on? And they like that because they have a choice in the matter. Their voices are heard. It's not just that they're being dictated to, right? It's not a dictatorship. We're actually leaders that are leading future leaders. We're helping them to get to where they need to get to. And it's starting from within. It's that whole body, mind, and spirit. Because you don't want to break a child's spirit. Because, like you said, if you have someone that tells you what you can't do, they're breaking your spirit. And then words become action. And then you really start to feel like, I can't do this. I can't do it, but you can. And that's where in our community, we need these kind of professionals. We need to have this community to come into the school and help our children. Because a lot, like you said, a lot of the textbook, that's what they take away. They take away the textbook, but they don't take away the integrity. They don't take away that personal aspect of what helps to build them up as leaders, future leaders, our doctors, our lawyers, our nurses, our spiritual advisors. There's everything that we need in this world to help us to maintain as a human body, as a spiritual body, right? They need that. And if we don't start to educate ourselves and get back into it, I didn't say you have to go to school for 6 years, 4 years. There are a lot of programs that are a little bit under 6 months that can help you. Every little bit helps. Each person that has a little bit of something that they can add to it while staying in your lane, okay? Staying in your lane. That's why I told you earlier. I, hey, I'm not a dietary professional here, but I can only go by what I do for myself and what I've seen. All we need is just that connection from the community. We need to start loving on one another with our kind words. It's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I hope you're having a great day. Hey, you look nice. That looks nice on you. Sometimes people just need a word. And when we go back to a word, now we're going back to the Bible because it's just a word. They often say you need to eat the word. You are what you eat. So, what are you thinking? What are you speaking? What are you inputting into your body, your mind, your spirit, and what's coming out? So, we do definitely need professionals in that capacity to help us in our community.
Thank you so much, Louise Taylor. This has been very informative for me. I have always been advocating for education reform in the schools here in Barbados because I understand the youthful or the new mind that comes to us, and how we shape that mind determines the world that we will live in when we are pensioners, the kind of people we will have making decisions for our countries when we are older. And that's why I think there's a need for education reform around the world, not just in Barbados, where the holistic approach is brought into the fore, where that is the main thing. We're not just looking at academics, we're not just looking at maybe building secular skills, but we're looking at the holistic development of the human being so that a lot of the negative behavior patterns that we see are eliminated over a period of time, because we're now looking out at the world and saying, you know what, the God in me salutes the God in you,
That's
and we
right.
treat each other the way we want to be treated. I know that going forward for me, I'm going to continue to advocate for education reform. I don't want to live in a world as an elderly person where the generation that takes over the leadership are not mentally and spiritually and physically ready for that. I think we can do that. I think we can create a world that works for everyone, where we're living in harmony, where we're showing up the way we should, and that is whole, perfect, and complete. I honestly believe that that can happen. I would like to thank our online audience, those people who are here supporting us on the World Wide Web. And I would like to thank Louise Taylor for an awesome and engaging discussion on holistic approaches to mental wellness, integrating education and intervention. Thank you so much, Louise.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. And thank you, audience, for joining us. This has been great. Thank you so much.
Okay.